Welcome to this week's Cook with Cabela's, where I'm with Scott Laseth, the sporting chef.
Good to be here.
What are we going to do today, Scott? I think we're going to do venison stew.
Not only are we going to make venison stew, this venison stew has stout. It's got some nice stout beer in it.
Can I have a stout while I'm cooking it?
You can have a
Oh,
stout.
that's even better.
It has chocolate in it, which sounds a little weird.
Actually, chocolate is an underrated ingredient in stuff. People like chocolate to eat, but I use it in stew, I use it in chili.
Yep.
Yep.
And then when you have a whole pot of stew, as long as you're making stew, you might as well make a bunch. And if you have leftovers, I'm going to take the leftovers and turn it into a venison pot pie using the same stew, all in Dutch oven.
That sounds awesome. I love pot pie, I like stew, I like stout. Let's get this thing
Let's
started.
do some. Oil in the Dutch oven.
Oil in the Dutch oven, I can do that right
a
over
little
here.
butter in there too.
We've had these on coals, look at it, it's hot. A couple tablespoons of oil, you think?
Yeah, it's just going to help with the browning. There's some butter.
All right.
And the venison here, really the important part about this venison is that it's been really, really well trimmed.
You cleaned it up great?
There's no
silver skin,
no silver
no
skin,
tendon.
nothing but just very, very clean venison muscle.
All right, do we need to add a little flour on here
We're
first?
gonna dust it with flour and then we'll hit it with some more flour once you get it in there and start.
All right.
And what the flour is gonna do, the flour is going to help brown the meat on the outside. It's gonna give it a nice crust, and it's gonna make that stew thicken once it's been stewing for a while.
That's gonna take a little while to brown. I wanna make sure it's brown on all sides. While we're doing that, why don't you get started on
I'm going to start on the dough. This is 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 cups of solid shortening, Crisco-like shortening, and I've got a little bit of cold water. This is 1 cup of cold water. I just want to do a little bit of that. You can either use a pastry cutter or just 2 forks, and this takes a while. What you want is to incorporate the shortening into the flour until you just get basically pea-sized granules, and then I'll add a little bit of that cold water. But it's very, very simple. You can also do this, if you do this at home ahead of time before you head to camp, you can do it in a food processor and do it very quickly. Wrap it up in plastic wrap and throw it in your cooler. The dough is ready. I need just a little bit, if you can give me a little bit of a dusting of flour.
Have a little bit of flour. Just a dusting?
That's perfect.
All right.
So what you do with the dough ball, once you have the dough ball ready, is wrap it up in plastic, like I said, and it's best if you refrigerate it for a couple hours.
Throw it in the cooler if you're at camp?
Throw it in the cooler. Let's
get this thing going.
Stew.
Yep. I'm gonna grab this. It looks like there's some flour and stuff stuck to the bottom. I'm gonna deglaze that just a little bit.
You want to loosen all those bits. And we might as well put a little porter in there too, because I'll need a rolling pin eventually.
I will start that, and I'm gonna stir this up a little bit.
Yep.
The porter's for me.
Porter's for you and the stew.
I gotta pour it in here?
Yeah, there's more.
Okay, good.
So, and just give that a stir. Basically, you want to make sure that you've loosened up all that floury stuff
you can
that's
see
stuck
those
to the bottom.
nice, delicious brown bits that add so much flavor. They're just coming right off on the bottom there as that starts to simmer. Some onions go in there?
Yep. Carrots.
Some good root vegetables. Oh, a
Garlic.
little garlic. That's excellent.
Brown sugar.
Oh yeah, just a little brown sugar. Sweeten that thing up just a little bit.
Dried rosemary.
All right.
Bay leaves.
Couple bay leaves.
And this is bittersweet chocolate here. You
Not
don't want
the kind of chocolate you want to take a bite into.
No. This is not a sweet chocolate at all, but as you said, this does add a really cool element, and it actually makes it a little thicker too.
It adds a little bit of a thickener.
It does, yep. How are we doing on liquid over there? Do we need more beef broth?
I'm gonna need some broth whenever you're ready. Everything else is good. I'm gonna stir it real quick.
And if you don't want to put beer in there, if you're not a beer drinker or you don't like the taste of beer, you can leave the beer out. But it really does add a really unique element to the stew. I use it all the time in wild game stews. The darker ones seem to have a better flavor component than the lighter ones, but if you're a light beer drinker, then use your light beer. Once the venison part is tender, then we'll add potatoes, and then it's about another 12 to 15 minutes. As soon as the potatoes are soft, that's going to help thicken it up. But in the meantime, we're looking at a couple of hours here.
I'm going to put the lid right on top of it.
Put the lid on.
And let her sit for a little bit.
And then we'll tidy up here and then start working on this pot pie, which is incredible Dutch oven food.
Scott, we planned ahead. We have a stew that's done,
We do.
but we're gonna make a pot pie, so
Next step.
next step.
I'll make the top. You make the bottom. And all we're gonna do is basically just flatten it out. I've got my roller here.
I have, for some reason, an empty stout bottle here.
And one of the cool things about a Dutch oven pot pie is that it doesn't really have to be perfect. Let me put a little pan spray in the Dutch oven.
So you're rolling this out to about, what, 1/4 inch thick? Is that about what you're looking for right
What
here?
I need is enough, and we'll kind of work it around to just kind of go up maybe inch or two
Okay.
up the sides.
Yeah.
Before I put stew in here, I want to brown,
A little
That's
break
fine.
there, but I'll let you work that around since
All right.
you're closer to it.
and I want to brown the bottom of this a little bit before we put stew on top of it.
So you're saying you need some hot coals.
Well, we're going to need some coals.
All right.
We are good.
All
Let's
right.
swap them out.
I think that's gonna sit there.
All right, it's stew time. This will be the top layer.
Look at that.
And what's good about this is it's nice and thick, because obviously you wouldn't want to put a thin stew
Yep.
into a pot pie.
That's right.
Because it'll all just fall apart. It'll still taste good. But this is nice and thick, so the flour did its job, the potatoes did its job, and the aroma is incredible. So go ahead and
So you
load up a bowl.
All right, I will do that.
And
How long are you gonna let that sit over there and brown?
You know, it kind of depends on the coals.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I just want to get a little bit of crust on the bottom. So since the Dutch oven itself wasn't hot at all,
Yeah.
it's going to take probably 5-6 minutes to put a little crust on the bottom of that.
Plenty of time for me to finish this bowl.
Yeah, give that a try. Is that all right?
Very good. It's really good, really thick, rich flavor. All that chocolate, all that stout.
And if you wanted to thin it out a little bit, you could thin it out with a little bit more beef broth or some more of the stout. But, you know, I like a good hearty stew.
Exactly.
Like
And
this.
like you said, when it's going in the pot pie, you don't want a lot of liquid in there because
Right.
then you're going to ruin your crust. So
So a couple more minutes over here, and then we're ready to make the pot pie.
perfect for me to finish this bowl of stew. Scott, this has been on the coals for a few minutes.
Few minutes. I just wanted to give it a head start. I don't want it to be too crusty on the bottom, because then it'll be burnt by the
on
time
the bottom,
we get it done.
but you do want it so you don't want to cut into raw dough.
Absolutely.
So you do need to part of it.
So go ahead
scoop
and
that
scoop
in
that
there.
in. And it's thickened up nicely, which is actually better for the pot pie,
That way you don't have a soggy pot pie.
right?
I'm
Just
gonna get one more
a little bit
scoop,
more.
I think.
Kind of spread it out.
There's a bay leaf in there. Mom always said, don't eat the bay leaf.
Yeah, you know.
I don't know if
that's
that's true or not, but
that's never really bothered me.
just saying, that's what my mom says.
All right, so I think the easiest way to transfer this is just going to be to
That
Peel
right
it.
up on top of there.
and then just kind of spread it out.
Work that dough around.
Once again, it doesn't have to completely cover it, edge to edge. It's kind of like, you know, when you make a slump instead of making a pie.
that's right.
And everything just kind of
Comes
goes together.
together.
And that's kind of the easier way to do it.
Yeah, it's
So
all
you
going
could-
in the same place. That
You could
looks
spend more
great.
time with that if you wanted to. Since this is an oven,
Put that on top.
we're going to put it on top. Bed of coals.
Underneath.
Coals on top, and you want to have more coals on top than you do on the
On the
bottom.
bottom.
Otherwise, it's not going to brown the top. You want this to be an oven,
Exactly.
so it's oven heat. So more coals on
On top, and then coals on bottom, and then for what, about 20 minutes?
20 minutes. Check it every now and then. When it's brown and crusty on the top, it's good to go.
That's right, because like you said, we're just cooking the dough. The stew's done. We
Right.
just need to cook that dough, get it brown and flaky.
That's it.
I'm looking forward to this. 20 more minutes and we're gonna eat. Thanks again for joining us on Cook with Cabela's. Come back next week. Scott, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man.
Thanks a lot.
You bet.